Hey, April here. Welcome back to Don't Stop Storytelling. This episode, I really want to talk about something I'm really passionate about, which is avant garde filmmaking. That's how I got my start at 14 because I'd been studying all these different art forms, ballet and music and writing and creative writing and all of these different things, drawing and painting and all these things, and it all just came together in a television studio when a friend's dad invited us in to play after hours, and I was a part of a local theater troupe, and we discovered that we could take these plays that we were writing and performing and actually make teleplays and put them on on film, right, and have them played back to us, and then I started looking at what and exploring in post production as we were sort of self teaching, like what the beats, like director's beats, and what the cadence could look like. And you could put something move. It was really great. You could move something forward and backwards. You could change the story around. You could take a traditional story, that 3 act structure of a play, and then start moving it around. And that was the early beginnings of film. But then I wanted to throw painting and photography and things that I had seen, and or been influenced by, or play around with the sound in different ways and do all these different things. So that's how I started making films, and that's what I used to apply to get into NYU. And it was also an education once I got into that sort of traditional storytelling school, and with this independent and whatnot, but focused on more so on narrative production. It was interesting to see what people what people identified with as being a story. And luckily, I had a wonderful teacher who is also a great friend of mine now, but always a mentor and someone that I aspire to be more like, Donna Cameron, who was is a phenomenal filmmaker. She invented her own film stock, got patents on different types of cameras, played around with different types of storytelling and structure, and taught me that it was okay and it was safe to tell stories in non-traditional ways. And I feel like right now we're at a place in time that you have a lot of filmmakers that are not necessarily employed, that have a lot of years of training in, that have stopped telling films. But now that we have, really phenomenal iPhones and different types of cameras and DSLRs and all these things, it's a great opportunity to experiment with your individual voice and push the envelope and be safe without risking your career or spending a ton of money. Because back in the day, it's like, okay, we're shooting we're shooting video, but once you start shooting film, which is always the goal, for that time was really the goal for most people, that costs money. You're experimenting with money. You're trying to figure it out, or you're like making it up on the fly, and you got how many frames per second going through the shutter. You're like, wait a minute, hold on for a second. So that could limit people. It could limit your creativity, and because you needed funding to be able to do stuff like that. But now it's like, it's no holds barred. You can take any sort of idea and things that you don't need to have greenlit and play around with telling stories based on rhythm or all of these other things, but really pushing the envelope in terms of what's possible and what your voice looks like, and experimenting and expounding upon that, and taking things and ideas that you may not have played with before, and even introducing that into narrative structures. So there's a lot of, you could almost tell a story about anything. You could be about a bug, it could be about night. I mean, I know Warhol was I believe it was Andy Warhol. Don't quote me on this, but I remember watching a film of the sunset over the Empire State Building, and this is long film, and I think it was Warhol, but he would just take common things and make them uncommon, right? And I feel like we have an opportunity to do that as filmmakers, and learn that the film may be the protagonist and the antagonist, instead of it being a character that's in front of the camera. The entire film itself, maybe its own personal conflict, right? It may contain the story or a lack of story. It may be about a color or anything else that's abstract. But the importance of doing that too, I think, is that you get to safely play with ideas that give you a little bit of distance, and you're supposed to do something funky. You're supposed to do something weird. You're supposed to figure out a new way of moving forward. And I am playing around with that myself, figuring out, like, okay, what can I just, one person, how am I going to do this? Because this is what I was doing before, but it's years ago, and I laid it down, but I really need to pick it up. And So that's what I'm playing with now on my own. I'm like, okay, how can I tell these really unique stories? It doesn't have to be for a bigger audience. You know, it could be for the audience of one, audience of, you know, my of YouTube, audience of whomever, and really learn a lot about myself and my process. It doesn't mean that you abandon process. It means that you ask a lot of questions about it, and if it is applicable across all mediums, all genres, and what you're really trying to achieve. And maybe what you're trying to achieve is just to keep telling stories, and to do it in the most creative way possible, and to stop limiting yourself. Avant garde filmmaking can really help you get out of your head, because it's kind of like anything goes, everything's acceptable, but then you kind of know on your own, you're like, you know what, I need to edit that. I need to pull this out, I need to push this in. So I would say don't stop storytelling. Go for, just go for it, right? Just go for it. And that's, you know, that's what I'm living, and that's what I'm working on now, and not saying, okay, you know, I need to schedule this a month in advance. And no, I can tell pieces of story now. I saw something, let me shoot it. Let me capture that. Let me figure out a way to work it in. Let me tell, you know, a story that I've been sitting in the back of my mind. Let me talk about dreams. Let me explore, just anything. And so anything is avant-garde. Everything is not good, but everything can be great. So don't stop storytelling. That's it.